Well, hello, everybody, and good afternoon, wherever you may be calling from. Thank you for joining today's webinar, and we are excited to get started. But we do want to wait for 5 more minutes here, just because we have a very large audience expected today. So if I can just urge your patience here just for 5 more minutes, and then we will go ahead and kick the presentation off today. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, I would encourage you to take part in our little poll that we have constructed here. It is a Mentimeter poll. So we'd like to get your participation in this. We're very interested to know how often everyone uses LinkedIn in the call today. So it would be great to get your feedback, and of course, going forward with the presentation, don't be shy. If you have questions, feel free to use the chat, and our team will be in the call as well, answering some questions, and then we will, of course, have a Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. So we will be sure to answer your questions. So we need your input, and we would greatly appreciate that. So we'll hang in here just for another 4 minutes, and then take a look at the poll, and we'll check in on that poll here in just a few. We are going to go ahead and kick off today's presentation, and we're very excited to do that for you today. This is a live event, of course, which we're always excited to do, and brought to you on behalf of Tricycle Europe, and it's via Microsoft Teams. So we are very excited to kick this quarterly edition of Meet the Masters off today, and we have a very special guest today. It's Tom Van Dael, and Tom, I'm excited. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm also very excited. This is also the first day back in our office, so really excited for this webinar.
Excellent. Well, we're really excited to be able to share your story. Of course, we know your story, but we want the audience to get some insights here today, and I have no doubt that you will be providing them with that. So, essentially what we want to do today is, kind of tee this up for you. We want to give you a little intro about, I think the current state of things, and state of social, and where we're at in terms of our new way of work and remote working. But we want to tie this into, a story here as well, and how Tom has leveraged social, specifically from the executive level. So we want to talk about how executives can embrace, social now, and how that can translate into company growth, and how you can establish trust in the online space, and how specifically, Tom did that. And we're going to have some Q&A then, of course, at the end, and of course during the presentation. We would appreciate your feedback, and just place those questions in the chat, and our team will be monitoring that. So initially, we asked that question on Mentimeter, that little poll. So we want to take a look and just see if there's any information that we can gain from this right now, how often everybody uses LinkedIn. And it's a pretty small graph here. I'm going to try to get this here. It seems like we have a pretty engaged audience here. We have a pretty switched on audience. So this might be a pretty easy group to talk to, Tom. Looks like the majority of the folks that have used the poll are using LinkedIn every day. And that's pretty impressive. So I'm actually really impressed to see that. So well done with that. I think the next question that I would ask as a coach is, how well do you think you are leveraging social as well? But that's for another day. But I want to do a little introduction, a brief introduction for myself here. Of course, my name is Eric Harr, and I'm a social selling coach for Tricycle Europe. And it's been a pleasure to be a part of the Tricycle journey, as well as the journeys of hundreds and hundreds of people that I've helped over the last 3 years, in digital transformation and leveraging the modern sales methodology. I was born in the U.S., obviously, born in Pennsylvania. I've been living in the Netherlands now for almost 4 years. So my Nederlands is niet zo goed, but ik leer Nederlands langzaam. So it's a work in progress. I have a background in communications and in sales. And one of the things that I loved about this opportunity as a coach is to leverage my experience as a sales professional and try to bring in that X factor of how you relate to people face to face and bring that into the online space and start leveraging your professional brand to achieve some, quality, business relationships, in the online space. And that's been my professional goal for the last 4 years. My passion overall is change. I love seeing new places. I love learning new cultures and new ways to communicate and adapt. And it's a passion. And I communicate in a number of ways. Face to face is my forte, but of course, online is the next thing, as well as I play music, and that's another way to communicate that I love. So I think we all would agree right now that the world has changed. And we are not going back anytime soon, to how it was, maybe 2 months ago. It's a brave new world for buyers and for sellers alike. So the current situation right now has catapulted us into 5 years, I think, into the future of technology. And it's not a question right now of should we embrace social for B2B, but more of a question of how well are we doing it, like I said before. And that is where I believe many companies need some help. Sure, I think many companies have a proven business model, in the real world, and they've translated that into some success into the digital world, with websites, web marketing, e-commerce, that kind of thing. But one area that I feel and we feel as a company that companies are not really winning in as a whole, and that is the online social space. And some are not even playing the game yet. And that's really where we come in, as a company. So, at Tricycle Europe, we build the foundation of large corporations to win in the social space. And as a coach myself, I love helping people succeed. And we believe the future will be shaped by how people use digital tools and social platforms to adapt to this new normal. So over the last 5 years, we've helped thousands of Microsoft sellers, marketers, partners, and executives from a number of companies to implement the Tricycle methodology. So, and we want to do more. Let's just be very clear about that. There's more work to be done. So companies like Microsoft, Accenture, Citrix, and Visma already have started to establish their digital foundation to keep them at the top of their industries. So we'd like, of course, to help more. So we're an ambitious company with a great team who is committed to really activating your success in the online space. But I think the question is, why? Why are we supporting and helping executives win in the social space? Why is this important to us? Why have we adopted this? I, from my perspective, really think that there's a lot of power in the executive suite, obviously, and that has not made its way into the social space. It's starting to. And there's mind share that is there to be gained. And that means gaining and holding public awareness. And there's a lot of eyes on social platforms right now. So on that new buyer's journey, an executive's accessibility online is priceless at this point. And that keeps the company's mission and vision top of mind while becoming the approachable face of the company. And guess what? It's free, right? It just is time investment. So I think some of the other important things that we can learn here is everybody has a professional brand online, and social is a way to amplify that. You can become an influencer. If you have the right people in your network, you can certainly leverage them as a micro influencer. And to really leverage LinkedIn as a B2B platform, I think you need to engage, which is sometimes what the default is for many who are just acting social and not really going social, is they're not really engaging, they're listening. So I believe that if you're not fully there and you're not really leveraging social and actually engaging, there is a good chance, and a really good chance, that your competition is doing that right now. So if that is not kind of a nudge to get you moving, then I don't think you really understand the idea of how some companies are prioritizing this and really, really digging in. So what signals do we see today? Of course, the familiar ones here of the buyer's journey, communication channels, demographics were really there and changing before our new way of work really hit in the last 2 months. So what signals do we see today? Of course, we said the buyer's journey has changed. So the number of channels that were available, that has always started to explode. In the last 5 years, it continues to do that. But since we've had to adjust to a new normal, there has been this rapid transformation and pivot towards really digging in, like I said, and leveraging social for B2B in all areas of business. And that's across every role. So I believe we're all in sales now, and that was an expression we have adopted in Tricycle when I first joined. We're all in sales now. So I believe everyone in your company can and should join in on the conversation online and pitch in, as that presence, a collective presence of your company. So because there are no more physical events and working from home now, of course, is the new normal, B2B platforms such as LinkedIn and others are essential to engage with your existing and potential buyers and help them understand what happens next for their business and how you can innovate, to really solve their problems. So how many of us in this call search online to find product reviews and to help us make buying decisions? I think we all do that. So the tables have turned, right? Your potential buyers are looking for that same help. And I think that is key to know. And the executives in your company absolutely can start doing this. And I believe this can start from the top down to really drive that within your company. So how impactful here is an executive's voice? Obviously, I think it's tremendously impactful. Mind share, gaining that is super critical. And it's been my pleasure to help numbers of executives throughout many companies really become more visible and add that value in the online space. Thought leadership is gained, and that builds trust and inspiration. Connectivity, you can connect with your customers and brand more visibly, higher outreach, and ultimately this leads to company growth, which is, I think, one of the most important aspects here. Everybody can contribute to company growth here by having an active presence, on social and being that voice of the company. So real quick, before we introduce Tom, just want to give you a little snapshot of his journey. This is just one example here of a potential journey. This is, of course, Tom's journey. And we as a company can tailor any specific program, but this tends to be the path. We want to get you immersed in social selling. We want to get you set in the kind of the framing of it, what's important. We get into branding on professional branding on LinkedIn, and we want to talk about social sharing and engaging, content strategy, and then kind of putting this into a routine. So that has been Tom's journey, and some of the key ways here that Tom kind of made his path. These were some of the objectives. It was mindset, change, looking about content creation support, more of a customer-centric profile in LinkedIn, and of course, getting that quantity of his network size, but also the quality of that. And these are normally the keys, for many initial objectives in a program. But now I think it is time to basically put this into practice and put this into a real context here. We're going to talk to Tom here in just 1 second. I think I just want to finalize my thoughts by saying that when we think about social selling, just because it has selling in the title does not mean it's just for sellers. Okay, I believe social selling is for everyone, and Tom absolutely embodies this message because Tom's role sometimes isn't necessarily the first role that you think about when you think about leveraging social, finance and IT. So I think this is another reason why Tom is an exceptional example here to show this. But it's for everyone in the company. And it builds upon those major building blocks of credibility, thought leadership, and this generates powerful conversations, which is really what we need in the online space. All right, so I want to find out before we go, and we'll check this again later, how you are leveraging social. What is your specific goal here, and where you're at in terms of your social presence. So we have a link in the chat box. This is what we call the SSI score. This will be something that you can look at and see how well you're doing in social, and then we can have a nice chat about it once the presentation finishes, and then discuss, what those numbers mean, and call out some social selling leaders in the call. Okay, so at this point, I want to introduce our guest speaker without further delay. It's my pleasure to introduce you to one executive who has not only adopted social selling for himself, but has made it his mission to be the advocate within his company, and that is Tom Van Dael, Finance and IT Director of Visma and board member of Raet and Social Selling Master. Tom.
Hi. Welcome. Hey, thanks. I'm going already a little bit fast, I see. Hi, my name is Tom Van Dael. I work at Visma and the Visma Raet. And for the ones who don't know Visma is now around 11,000 employees. And it's a cloud business software company selling in the Nordics and expanding in the Netherlands. And I joined a year ago, and I come from a telecoms background and from a consumer background. And I think at the time that I joined was also the time when we started the Tricycle upgrade for our company. And it was for the salespeople, but we had one introduction where I also sneaked in to see what was happening. And I got the chance to also do this Tricycle flow. And I think the things that came together for me was that before I was using it as my coach said, you use LinkedIn as a Rolodex, so it has all your old friends at work, and it's a static resume, and that's all you do with LinkedIn. And she was right. And I think moving to this B2B company where our contracts are long term, so you're not able to adjust the market in just 5 seconds, what you can do in the telco industry before. You see the added value of using LinkedIn. And then coming to my job, I'm responsible for finance and IT. So only the salespeople were going to this coaching session, and I sneaked in. And I think for me the added value are a few. We're a software company. Visma is growing very rapidly, so not only Raet, but there are a lot of other companies, great software. We are using that as our company. We like to see ourselves as a flagship of the use of that. So from that point of view, it's very valuable for me to talk on LinkedIn on what we are doing and what kind of great things we are doing with our own software and with our vendors, and also in that way contribute. And I think what you said, everyone is a seller, and I think you will always influence someone somewhere somehow. So hey, because you get a lot of questions, but how much did you contribute to the sales of today or tomorrow? But I think it's more in a long-term thing. How do you influence people, and how do they come back to you, or how does Visma get top of mind of people, and that will help along the way. So my first part of the journey was looking at my own profile, and as I said, it was a static resume, just showing what my function was, what my functions were, and that was it. And I only had a recommendation of my previous managers saying that I did a great job. That was the only thing that I did. And what I now do is making it, well, as you could call, a more customer-centric landing page. Just show what Visma has to offer, or what Visma Raet has to offer, and what I have to offer. What am I capable of? What am I bringing to the table? So you see a lot of things. I had a very gloomy picture there, so show a picture that smiles, that's open for business, where you want to interact with. Well, there is a article on Visma Raet currently displayed on a great magazine, so I'm showing that in the banner that you have. And then if you come to your job title, yes, my job title is Finance and IT Director, but I'm responsible for a few things, and I want to make some things happen, and that's the digital transformation that we're doing at Visma Raet. We're doing a big finance transformation, and from a finance point of view, I want to be the business partner which helps the business to grow. So in that way, I'm trying to be very consistent in who I am, what I do, and what I have to offer. Then if you look at the about, then it was more saying what I did, and you're trying to make a conversation with people, just showing, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm good at, this is what we're doing. If you have questions, or can I learn from you, connect. And also if you see to your experience, it was only small text in Telegram style, and you try to make a story which is readable, people understand what you're doing, add some pictures or content which is relevant, and it makes it more fun to read. Then another part that I totally didn't use is, and I don't know how you call it, but it's a top bar where you show what is the main things that you want to do. And I think it's a great way to show the things that you are doing, and which is important for the statement you want to make or for your company. So for me at the moment, it is the great article that we're running on what we're doing. It's this great webinar we're in that we're doing. And if you would scroll, you would see also some postings we do on the great IT projects that we're doing, and trying to show some great content that we have that people can have a look at. So I'm really trying to show here what we have to offer, and I think it builds trust on what I do, what we do as a company, and the software that we're selling. So from that point of view, that should help.
Hey, Tom, I had a quick question then on this. I think a lot of people have, maybe a similar question is, because you're in finance and IT, I mean, you really took, this and went with it. You adopted it. So that was the one question I have for you is, what made you see the value in this and commit to this program? And then the second is, how do you think this is influencing others within your organization?
Yeah, well, I think why I went in it, as you say it, is because I think it brings a lot of value. The things that I'm doing with my teams, we're doing great things where we need to be proud of, and I think it's great. I want to share that I'm proud of the teams and what we are achieving. And on the other hand, this is also the product that we or other Visma companies are selling. So how great is it to see that we're successful in using our own software together with vendors, and everyone is happy about that. So that's really where the added value is, and also being very clear on the things where you're responsible for, what you want to achieve, and I think you're able to transform. So I think it's also fun, of course, to have a conversation with sales or with other people who are more likely to be into this exercise to see how you can push one another. And I think for them it's also interesting that they can say, hey, this is our IT guy at our company, and see how great the software that we're using is working. So it also helps them in their sales process. Say, hey, but we can also do that, and we have other products. So I think I'm also contributing to them, that they have someone where they can say, hey, have a look, or share something that I posted on the article that we now wrote, or on the great systems that went live, or the acquisitions that we have done. So I think there's, you can, as you said, everyone is in sales, and I'm not going to talk about sales things, but if I'm talking about things that I'm responsible for, that's a transformation that we're doing using the IT, becoming a better finance organization. I think those things I can contribute, and they're also realistic. If I start talking about things that I'm not responsible for, then it's also not really authentic. And I think the value is if the things you're contributing, if it's authentic.
That is a great lesson for everybody, I think, in this call to hear, is to be authentic. And that's what really drives conversations, and good ones in the online space. Well done.
Yeah, and I think also looking at authentic, so it also means that if you look at skills and recommendations, I didn't have a lot half a year ago, and there are not a lot of people who will give you an endorsement, because that's, at least in the Netherlands, that's not the way that we do it. But you also want to have here endorsement on skills that make the story right. What am I doing? I'm doing the finance transformation. I'm responsible that we use these IT systems properly, that it's a great showcase for sales in the Netherlands, that you can use Visma. So those kind of things, you want to add value for that. So it's great that your skills are about those topics, and not that you might have endorsements on you're great at Excel, which you might have had in other periods when that was very important. And it's the same for recommendations. I only had recommendation of my previous boss saying he did a great job, you can work with him. But it's way better to have recommendations now, which are about the things that we are currently doing, and I think all these elements, they make your profile more logic and powerful, and of course that works into your SSI. I don't know a lot about the SSI. I only know that when I started half a year ago, I think it was around 50, and now it's 76, and I don't know exactly what it does, but I do see that you do get more interaction with the people that you want. So at the end, I think it's something that shows how you're doing. I don't know if there's a holy grail on what number you need to be, but I think it helps in showing if you're doing the right way to become more successful in the communication that you want to have. Another great one, and I think that one was for me because I thought LinkedIn was boring with the updates that you get, because it's from a lot of people from the past, but you can adjust a lot, and I wasn't aware of, but where are your interests in? Who are you following? What kind of hashtags are you following? So this way, I also get a lot of interesting content back, and previously I only linked with people that I already knew for a long time, and now I bump into people that I find interesting because they post something interesting, or there is something mutual, and you have a connection there, and that brings LinkedIn to today, and not only in the old Rolodex of the past. So that's really what's helped me a lot. And this way, LinkedIn is also interesting because it's also time consuming. But if you have the right content coming to you on LinkedIn, then you also save the time in Googling on the content on finance transformation, or I want to see what the Harvard Business Review or what the last things of Gartner are. So you just bring it together in LinkedIn, and then it's also easier to continue with it. So when we did the profile and all these kind of things, then it came to these questions, and it's very heavy. What is content strategy? But I think the discussion was, hey, what do you want to communicate about? I think that's that's a problem with a lot of people. What do I have to tell? What's the added value of what I'm telling? Is anyone waiting for that opinion or whatever? But if you know what you want to communicate about, I think that's important. Then who are you using it for? Is it only for your past colleagues, or are you using it to stay in touch with your vendors, partners? Or for me, I want to connect with other peers, other people who are responsible, financially responsible for other companies. And the funny thing is that a lot of those peers also are customers and prospects, because a lot of guys responsible for finance at other companies are also the ones who are looking at, hey, what are we spending on our software? Do we want to go to a new HR system or finance system? So also there, it's handy that I have those connections. For me, it's interesting. I learn from them, but on the other end, it might also be a future prospect. And I think the most important thing is that you need to get energy from using LinkedIn. If you're only doing it, I have to do it, and I just press some likes and I'm off, then I think it's not going to work, and then it doesn't give you the energy. So that for me were the main things. And then we came to the great Raet. So that was what are now the things that are interesting, and how do you want to work on it, and what do you want to achieve? And you can use a lot of fancy words, but there is a personal branding part, saying who am I, what is my knowledge, what do I want to do, why connect with we, what is my added value. Then you have the networking, and I think later on you have the engagement with all kinds of people, whether it's your peers, it's customers, or it's colleagues. It can be all kinds of, and then it's inspire and build trust. For me as a person, but also for the company that I work for, and if you combine that, then also the trust in the things that we are selling will increase. Well, if we look at the first part, well, it's called personal branding. It's all big words, but at the end, there are different roles that you want to that you have. I have a role as a professional, as a finance professional, but you're also a team player. I have a team where we're doing projects. We as Raet are part of a bigger company, Visma. We have our headquarters here in Amersfoort. You want to have a connection with that, because that can also help. So you see that you're trying to do your branding, and it can be further than what is strict my role. If they say, hey, you're responsible for finance, just make sure that the numbers are right every month, and that we have a proper budget, then you wouldn't have to do it all. But I think all these things add value, and if it's related to the housing, we renegotiate it, and having the connections helps in those renegotiations and to get what you want. So there are always moments when that's very interesting. And then I think it's also, we do a lot of great offline things. So we had a great CFO meeting last year, and had a great presentation from the guys from the Jumbo Visma team. But that was a one-time event. You have a connection with a few people, and that event dies away in time. But by making a writing down the interview, having a document, now it's sometimes I can get this back, because there are times when we're saying, hey, how does teamwork is so there are ways when you're talking about some kind of things where you can address back to the things that you've done, and it's the same for social responsibility. It's also very important for us. It's important for a lot of customers. It's important for our employees. Also there, we did great things, but also by making also have documentation which you can use at certain times. This is about autistic IT testers that worked at our place for a year in our great transformation, which is brilliant. They were great guys. And how great is it when again the autism week is there, and we can rerun this great story and said, hey guys, we really believe in it, and this is a great company. And by telling about this, we also used it for customers who said, hey, we also want it. So you see that you're able to connect things in the past or offline with online, and I think there is a lot of added value in it. And if we look at networking, then of course it's all also in different kind of ways. So for me, it's with a lot of IT partners that we use. We use them for ourselves. We sell it. You want to be connected with that and push what they are doing. But on the other hand, also if it's about knowledge, for instance, this with Gartner, we want to be on top of finance and the things that we do. So also being connected and linked to that also gives that attention and you're able to because the picture below is a pre-corona offline meeting, and of course there it's very easy to connect with the people and you walk away and you have 5 or 6 new friends which you can contact later on. But now in the online it's more difficult, but you have a lot of webinars, roundtables and those kind of things, and by mingling in knowledge partners or with peers, you end up also in those places which give great insights, which give new friends, and maybe you're not doing business today with them, but maybe you're doing business with them next year. So I think there is a lot you can do, and by sharing it, people see it, and for instance with the Specialist there, a lot of people were very proud of it and say, I love working at this company, which gives people who have a distance to the market a place to work. So it has a lot of added value in different ways, and by linking a lot to Jumbo Visma, which had a great year last year, it helped us in finding new employees who said, hey, you're a great, cool company. You have something to do with Jumbo Visma, but I haven't got a clue what Visma Raet does. But apparently by that they see that they get that connection. So you see that a lot of things are working in a way. Do you want to say something, Eric, or was just?
Yeah, I was gonna just. Yeah, I don't know how you saw that, Tom. You're paying good attention there. Real quick, I think this is a question a lot of people kind of go through. Is they understand the importance of connecting with people online, but they sometimes don't understand, how engaging and what all that takes. But when we start kind of showing that, it all boils down to the amount of time someone has available to them. So how do you manage to do your role as finance and IT director and still do that plus do social? What can you tell people about that?
Well, I think if you would ask it at home, they would say that I'm on social a lot. So yes, it's time consuming, but I think that once you have the idea of what you want to talk about, you call it the content strategy, and I think it's a big word, but if you know what am I good at, what is the story that I want to tell, what are the subjects that I want to push and create awareness and have engagement on, then you're really guided on the things that you want. And for me, it's a software that we're selling. I want to have a great finance organization. We're using new technologies like RPA and those kind of things, and I'm interested in that. And that gives guidance on the people that you want to interact with. And then also if things happen during the week, then you say, okay, hey, this was a great meeting. I can tell something about it. Or hey, I joined a great webinar and have some insights. I'll talk about it. For like here, I have a posting on Guard, which was a acquisition of Visma, a great company, and we're going to use their software because it's going to solve a problem that I have. So I'm telling about that we are going to use it. It's great, and it helps them also. They get some additional exposure from my network. Say, okay, on Guard, never heard of it, but hey, you think it's a great company, it's solving that problem for you. I have the same problem. Maybe I also want to talk about them. So there's a lot of engagement, but also now during Corona, you don't see a lot of people. I do have a lot of people working at Visma Raet, but also in the teams that I'm responsible of, in finance and IT. It's a lot of people. They all work hard in their own place. Also, through this, it's great to share things that you're proud of your team. Like it's a social style with my finance team, where we worked on getting to know each other better and becoming a better team. Or what you see in the right top is where we had a big meeting showing what we are doing in our IT project, and you can show the people who are doing the real work and the real things, and say, hey, I'm grateful for what they are doing, and we're achieving this, and we're making the next step. So it helps selling our software, but it also, you get you get comments from those people and say, yeah, it's great, and I also like it, and then you also get engagement, and it can be with employees, it can be with peers, it can be with all kinds of groups of people, and I think that's the engagement that you're looking for, and during this time, I think it's a great added thing to show that you're still proud of your team, and although we're all working from our home offices, we're still doing great things. So, well, there's engagement in all kinds of ways. And then here this is an article which was published just a week ago, and it's about the IT transformation that we're doing, and using all great Visma software and from some partners, and for me this was a real great thing that we were able to get a real story about what we're doing, and as it says, we're digitally transforming to drive efficiency. And this is really great. We are doing great stuff, and it's really helping us, and it's great software. But it's greater if someone else says it, or whether it's published in this magazine. And I think by showing what we were doing, you get the interaction with these companies who are looking for content or for great stories, and then you can get to these things, and I think being able to publish this and share this, and it gets around to a lot of other customers, and not only in the Netherlands but in other places. But it's great because we use Visma software. You can use it all over Europe. So I think this is great, and it helps to build trust, because it says what we are doing, that we are using, and I think if you can get it on social, it's great. And what you said, it's cheaper than in the old way. Yeah, this is it's free, or sometimes vendors, of course, pitch in or whatever. But it helps, and if you can use this content, and of course other people also reshare it. So our MD says, hey, this is a great story of our finance guy. He's with his finance and IT team, they're pushing efficiency, and we're doing great stuff with our own software and with our partners. That's great. She's pushing that, and other partners of us say, hey, yeah, that's our story, and we're also part of that. So you also see others picking it up and sharing that story and telling that story. And I think that is that's at the end what you want to be. And then one of the things that I want to achieve is drink my own champagne. That we are really using all that we have, and show that we're a great, efficient company, and that sales can use it to sell it to everyone. So I think, well, at least for me, these were some topics to talk about, and I think if you really want to be successful, and what is successful, of course, is for everyone different. For me, it's that I see that it's working, and I get inspiration of it, and helping to amplify what we want to do as Visma. But I think you have to make sure that everything is logic, from the profile that you have, the stories that you want to tell, the connections that you have, and once that's connected, then I think you came with this one, Erica, that the spokes of the wheel. But I think it is indeed the case, because you need to do a lot of things, and they need to come together, and once the wheel is turning, then the wheel goes faster, and things happen. And another great thing was, pretty recently, someone out of my network came to me, which I worked for a few years ago in telecoms, and he said, yeah, we want to do something for our telco customers with bookkeeping software, and I come to you, and it's fun, because I know the guy, but if you read my LinkedIn, then I'm responsible for the HR software. So, but apparently because he sees some things about it and says, hey, I know that guy, it's top of mind. He makes a connection. And then I think another important thing is you cannot do this alone. So it's great when you post something or you tell a story, but people also need to interact and nurture. I think a lot of people are leechers. I also was that, and it's just reading and then going away. But if it's great, then of course you can like it. But I think the greater thing is have some interaction because you think it's cool, and also pick up things. The same here on the left side was a great article of RMD on using robotics, and then I share that and say, hey, this is a great story of what RMD is doing, and then it also has more impact than that she shares, hey, see me be great doing this. But you need the interaction, and I think that if people are also aware of that, then it also becomes easier to do it yourself, because then you also get that feedback back. I think that's important. So I think that is that's more or less my story, and I think this is a great feature that you learned me, Eric. That if you go to your app, and you push on that square on the right top, you get that QR reader, and on the one end you can see your own QR. So I think it's great to put in presentations or those kind of things. But you can use the scanner, and then that person pops up. So
yeah. So Tom, it was really great that you took that initiative to put that in there. And I think everybody in the call, if you do not know about this QR code, absolutely pull out your mobile phone, get to your LinkedIn app, and go into your search bar in the LinkedIn app and hit those little icons. You'll hit those 4 little icons that you can see in the search bar, and then you could scan Tom's QR code from your computer screen. And it's a great tool to be able to connect with somebody in in their seat, in their computer screen, and it's a great thing to do in a presentation as well. So your quick study, Tom, obviously really impressive, your journey. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, and it was really great.
Yeah, thanks. And
cool. So I think most people will be trying to connect with you as well. I want to be able to check right now as well to see if we have any questions in the chat box. And we are running over a little bit of time right now, so hopefully everybody in the call is okay with that. We'd appreciate that. Do we have any questions at all? If you do, feel free to put that in the chat box. And while you do that, I'm reviewing a little bit of the social selling index information that was in the poll. And it looks like the majority of folks here are between 60 and 70 in the SSI. And that, of course, is out of 100. So generally speaking, 30 and below is really not engaged. So you really need some social selling help. Anywhere from 40 to 50 or 60 is engaged. And then 70 and above is a social selling leader. So a lot of you here are poised, to be in that social selling leadership category. So well done. There's always the next level that it has to take to get you to that, that 70 and higher. And that's the quality efforts that you have in your social efforts. And that's where I'd like to tell you, if you in the call need a little bit more help with this as well, if you would like a follow-up here, feel free to connect with us. We have the QR codes here for myself, Tom, as well as the company page. We would love to have you follow us. And, we will follow up with a personal email. And we can discuss any needs that you may have and talk about where you're at, in your transformation journey, specifically related to leveraging social. So, at this point, I think I want to wrap things up. And again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join, as well as our guest speaker, Tom Van Dael. Tom, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and we'll look forward to keeping in touch and seeing your exploits on LinkedIn and seeing you there. So for everybody else, thank you for joining, and you have a great day, and keep leveraging social.
Hi, Eric. I think we have a couple of questions in the chat box.
Sorry, Javi, I could not see those, so I didn't know if we had any. Okay, good. I can see them now. So the first question, and this is for Tom. Is there a corporate-wide social selling strategy at Visma, Tom?
Well, not that I'm aware of. You see within a few companies that are doing it. We had last week we had a extended management meeting, and there was also a Finnish colleague of mine who was telling about social and the things that we could do. And I'm aware that we are using now Tricycle to put a basis on what we want to do on social, but I'm not aware of really the same policy within Visma. And also the challenge is that we acquire almost every month new companies, so it is growing every month. But I'm not aware of a real corporate strategy on that. No.
Another question for you, Tom, is we're talking about KPIs here. Do you set KPIs for social selling at all at this point?
No, not on in the beginning. Of course, when I was on 50 on the SI, it was great because you fill in some things and then whoop, you go up. But I don't look at it that often anymore. But for me, it's now more what I get out of it. When I really get nice interactions with new people that I don't know, or they bring in something interesting, whether it's for business or it is on interesting content. I think that for me is the KPIs. As long as I get those things back up for me. Also, I also joined a group of finance executives, which I stumbled on through LinkedIn. So as long as you keep adding things that add value for me, I think that's the KPI. And I think if you're really in sales, then probably you're doing way more in that, and then probably you would want to have some KPIs on your efforts. But for me, it's more telling the story and building trust than really hard sales.
Cool. I think we have it now. Tom, could you advance, I think, to the last slide there?
Sorry.
I think. Okay, perfect. So everybody, I want to thank you once again. Sorry for the slight delay in the questions there. Get in touch with any of the coaches, in the call today. You can reach out to myself. You can also connect with the company page. And, this is a formative time. We would love to be able to speak with you. So feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we will go ahead and connect with you and communicate with you going forward. So I think there was one final question here, Tom, I think, before we end. And somebody was asking, what is the biggest barrier you had when you started, and how did you overcome that barrier?
Yeah, I think it was when I came aware of what I want to talk about. So at the moment for me, it was, hey, we're doing great stuff on IT and finance here, and that's also helping to position that story. I think once I had that content for me, hey, these are the topics that I want to talk about, share, and I think it adds value when I share information on that. I think that was the thing that really made it easier to come up with what you want to talk about, because I think that is also, if we discuss it internally, then it's often, but what do I post about? And I think once you see where that angle is of your interest and the things you're doing, and when those things come together, I think it's for everyone a different combination. But even in finance and IT, you can find that you can find that connection. I think if then it becomes natural, because otherwise every week you're thinking of, hey, what am I going to write about? And it should come natural because you achieved again something, or you say, hey, this is great. And also get over it that once sometimes you post something and there's not a lot of interaction with it, well, apparently it was the wrong time or not that relevant, then it will pick up the next time.
Awesome. And one other thing, thanks for that, Tom. One other thing, there is a link that has been dropped into the chat as well, and it's a form. It'll take you 2 minutes to fill out, so we would love to have your feedback as well, about today's presentation. And again, if you need to get in touch with anyone on the team, feel free to do so, and we will go ahead and get back to you as soon as possible. All right, guys. Well, thank you for the little extra time today, and do appreciate it. And we will look forward to speaking with you hopefully soon.